In section 4 of the business studies exam, and there's another video that goes through exactly how to do section 4, how do you do the essay. But I want to look a little bit at how important it is to use those case studies and actually how to use them. And the big question that gets asked is, where do you get your case studies from, right? Or from whence do you get your case studies? Doesn't matter. It's not English. So where do you get your case studies from? If you look at the textbooks that most people use, you look at the Business Studies in Action, they've got this Aussie Bum case study. If you look at Crumpler in the Cambridge book, if you look at the Qantas case study, it's just Qantas, but it's incredibly detailed. But I don't really like the idea of just using that one case study. I know that people do, and I know that schools and selective schools do it, and all this sort of stuff. But the number of times that markers have to read that same Qantas case study over and over, and I don't even like the idea of a guy, just making money every single year from doing one case study. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the best one is really that creative business studies book. It's got the best range. It doesn't have like one big case study. It uses little snippets, and that's what I recommend to my students. It's better to have, trying to have one big case study that covers everything. There are going to be areas where you're really stretching it to use that as a case study. It's better to go, okay, well, look, I'm a well-rounded student. I read the newspaper. I mean, you don't really. You can just look at the Facebook page for the apps. But you want to look like you're a well-rounded person who's using the right business case study for the right syllabus dot point, not just because everything else is Qantas, so I want to use Qantas for this one, right? And that's where the importance of Facebook comes in. If you're on the Facebook page already, it doesn't matter. But whenever a news story gets published here on the Facebook page, on that HSC Business Studies Cram Apps Facebook page, then it gets added to the page, and it even shows like a little explanation of where it fits into the syllabus, and usually a little summary. So this story came out on July 28th, and I shared it on July 28th. And it was about operations. It was about the effect of government policies on operations. So that's where it fits into the syllabus. That's the requirement of the syllabus, that you do need to have a case study or a contemporary business issue about the effect of government policies on operations. And then there's a little summary. The government's going to subsidise Emirates to keep them in South Australia. All right, that's good. Yeah. So now you have a little snippet. Yeah. So you just click like on the Facebook page, and then they just come up. They're free forever. It's not a scam or anything like that. I'm not trying to get money from you. You don't have to sign up. You just click like. Yeah, you click like on weirder things than that. Anyway, how do you actually use those case studies in your sentences, though? What I read over and over and over again for the students of mine that actually end up using case studies is they say, all right, for example, case study. So, for example, Qantas. For example, Qantas. For example, Qantas. For example, Qantas. But without all the different, range of intonation they're running. It just becomes incredibly tedious. So you need to think of all different ways before you actually go into the exam and then start thinking about, I wonder what sentence I could use. Actually think of different ways. You could say one business that has experienced issues in this area has been case study. Or an example of this was when case study, or a significant issue for case study has been, or earlier this year case study, or 2011 to 12 saw some challenges for case study, or case study is a perfect example of the importance of. Case study has, case study chose to, case study found out the hard way that, case study discovered, case study sought to improve in this area. Most significantly for case study was, or when responding to this issue, this operations issue or government policies, case study, blah, 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 or as a response to this problem, and probably my favorite one, because the syllabus really has this emphasis on how management deal with things. You would say like Qantas management responded to these concerns by, or BHP management responded to these concerns by, because that's what it's really about. It's not just about the things that influence businesses, it's how management responds. Now, before you go into the exam, you need to know exactly which case study you're going to use for each part of the syllabus. And it seems like, oh no, there's just an unlimited number, but it's not, right? You are able to actually list which case study you're going to use for each part of the syllabus. So in the operations Cram app, you've got this syllabus. So you just press the syllabus button on the main screen, and this color-coded syllabus comes up, right? Now you can see from there the pink areas, pink boxes are the areas where you need a case study, right? So you can see in operations processes that there's not really a case study, because it's got things like Gantt charts and stuff like that. You don't need a case study for a Gantt chart or a critical path analysis. What you do need case studies for are those top two, for role of operations management and influencers, and you need to know which case studies you're going to use for each one. So my recommendation would be, when you're writing your notes, you split up the syllabus like that, and then you go, okay, which case studies am I going to use? I know I've got to, I have to have a case study for, describe the features of operations management for a business in a tertiary industry. But what business am I going to write about? You'd be stupid to go into the exam knowing that Section 4 requires case studies, knowing that there's only a certain number of things that they can ask you about for a case study question, and then just thinking, oh, it's impossible to just know them all. It's very possible to know them all. Like, it'll take you like a day or maybe 2 days of just solidly working through and making sure you've got case study names for each one. And it's just the names, right? I'm going to go through what details you would write in a sec, but just knowing the names for each one, right? So if I get a question that asks to discuss the balance between cost and quality in operations, I'm going to talk about Virgin and JB Hi-Fi, right? So I know that that's it. If I get a question about operations management in a tertiary industry, I'm going to talk about Jetstar and Webjet. If I get asked to look at the relationship between operations and other key business functions, I'm going to look at Maya and I'm going to look at Qantas. If I get something about the influencers, if I get corporate social responsibility, I'm going to talk about Woolworths and ANZ. If I get globalization, I'm going to talk about NAB and Newcrest. If I get government policies, I'm going to talk about car manufacturing and Emirates or whatever, right? You write down which case studies you're going to use for each one. What do you have to know about each of your case studies? Like I said, I wouldn't recommend just having an enormous 50-page case study that tries to cover everything, because firstly, it's just not interesting for the markers. What you're trying to do is wake the marker up, right? It's not like they're going to go, oh no, you're implying that they fall asleep. They don't fall asleep. Usually when you're drunk, you will fall asleep. No. But they are bored. Yeah. You can't pretend that it would be exciting or that it is exciting. And I know for a fact, having done all this marking, that it's not exciting at the marking center. And if they're marking at home, it's going to be even worse, because you're not even going to have people looking over your shoulder all the time. It's going to be very, very boring just doing the same thing over and over. So I would have different case studies for each area. And it would also make it more interesting for you to study as well. So let's say we're looking at the breadth of government policies that affect operations management. What you do is you go to the Facebook page, you scroll right down the bottom, just keep scrolling until all the things have come up, and then you just search for operations, or you search for government policies, and then it might come up with 5 different things, and then you've got all the different things that you can use as case studies, right? So it's just searching one page, and it will come up with all the different case studies that you need for that specific dot point. Right? Now, what do you then write in your study notes? Well, write a couple of dot point notes, like 3 to 5 dot points for each of those case studies. So click on the link, read the story, and then go, okay, what do I focus on? Focus on, first of all, the actions taken by managers. What did managers do to deal with that issue? Because the syllabus is all based around that. Look at statistics, because statistics are not as common in business studies as they are in, say, economics. So you go, okay, all right, statistics, that's going to impress the markers. Even if I say 65, but it's really 63. Like, they're not going to Google or anything like that. It'll be impressive just to know that you have a statistic there, right? And the last thing would be to look at measures of effectiveness. So did it work? Why did it work? Why didn't it work? And what were the measures of effectiveness? So if you're looking at how a business dealt with, human resources issues, what are the measures of effectiveness there? If you're talking about dealing with government policies, how do you know whether it's actually been effective? You might use things like, their profits have increased, or their sales, or their market share, right? You look at different measures of success and focus on those. So as you're reading each article, as you're going through the Facebook page and looking at all the different articles, you go, okay, what did the managers do? What are some statistics and measures of effectiveness? And then you write down the dot points under that subheading, and then you have all your case studies. And then you share it with all of your friends. You share it, not your friends in other schools, don't worry about them, just let them burn. But you share them with the people in your class, because it is very, very important that you cooperate with the other people in your class. And if you don't understand why, then go on the Facebook page. There's a video there that explains why you need to cooperate. And it's about, if you get them a better exam mark, you're more likely to get a better moderated assessment mark. And it's just the maths of it. It's just going to happen. Finally, don't limit yourself only to the compulsory case studies. If you're writing a short answer question and you go, hey, there's a good case study that go for this, but it's not section 4. No. Write it, okay? The marker is going to be more impressed by you knowing a case study for something that's not compulsory, or even if it is compulsory, but writing it in a short answer question, than, you just having memorized the textbook, right? Because I guarantee you, for 95% of you, you are not going to be as good as memorizing the textbook as the other 5%, right? You're going to be just a normal person. You're not going to be a machine that can memorize the entire book. So having the case studies is a way of setting yourself apart from the people who just study the entire textbook. And it's all about waking the marker up, right? Wake the marker up, get them out of that, Qantas funk that they're stuck in, and say, all right, hey, look, I've got something different. I've got something different here. And, they won't mean to reward you, but they will reward you for waking them up, for writing something different, for God's sake, right? Can you finally write something other than the same thing that I've read 1,000 times? Because, everyone in the state uses one of the 2 textbooks. You shouldn't. You should use the creative one. It's a better one. But, they just read the same theory over and over. Use your case studies. Wake the marker up. If you want any more information, you go to that Business Studies Cram Apps page. If you're already on it, then just go back to it. All right.